Hey everybody, this is the Post Movie Podcast. I'm Steve Head.
I'm John Black.
And we're here with a guest, Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob. How's it going? I'm Bob, known as Moviebob from EscapistMagazine.com, host of Escape to the Movies, The Big Picture with Moviebob, and the Game Overthinker video game show on ScrewAttack.com.
I am so glad you
I saw I was checking out the Game Overthinker.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, that was definitely some overthinking.
Thank you.
It's just going to be Bob to me. We'll keep it simple.
Before I started, I was like, okay, so I'm just going to say, and we've got Bob or something like that. And Bob's like,
Bob.
let me do my own intro thing. So, yeah, you're in a lot of spots.
I am. I'm in many places.
And Moviebob.
Yes.
So is Moviebob that you do something specifically for the magazine?
Well, as it happens, for people who are thinking to make a name for themselves on the internet, be really careful about whatever the first nickname you give yourself is, because it's going to stick and it's going to end up being like your thing forever. So that was the first thing that I called my first vlog, was Moviebob, and it ended up getting stuck on the front of a whole bunch of videos and podcasts and articles and things. And at this point, it's kind of just become the web name for everything I do. Sure. So good thing it's at least catchy.
I can think of a couple examples where that.
When I was at AOL, when I first started, they at AOL Digital City Boston, we were guys and gals. So if you did theater, you were theater guy. If you did cigars, you were cigar guy. Yep. I did movies, I was movie guy. Yep. And I'm on a junket, and there's some guy. He turned out to be a nice guy after I got to know him, but he was
Chuck,
the movie guy.
That's what I was thinking about.
And he was like ready to sue AOL because I was calling myself movie guy. And he's like, no, I've got that trademark. I was like, no way. He goes, yeah. He
Really?
went to a trademark lawyer. He's trademarked as the movie guy. Great guy. But he
nobody else can be the movie guy.
Not according to Chuck.
I'd like to have his lawyer. I just started tweeting last night, signed up for Twitter.
Yeah.
And
Moviebob.
there are already 5 or 6 different movie bobs, like, Moviebob 1, 2, 3 on there. So I'm tweeting as _Moviebob.
We should sign up for one and just put up false tweets about him. I'm at the glass slipper. They're dancing for me.
This is one of the we're recording it from era, and one of the drawbacks is that is
what?
Yeah, they're working on
the bussing, the cleaning,
I've done that for a living, so I don't begrudge any such thing. I've been there.
Oh, all right, let's get started.
And there go the plates.
Right.
There go the plates. So in this episode, we're going to talk about Red Riding.
Yep.
The new flick, which I did not see.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, Bob did.
Yes, I did.
And John did.
You bet.
So we got that going. And then we're going to move on to Battle LA.
Which I did not see, but I think you two did.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Yes, that was a... Wow. That was
wanted to see it.
Unrelenting. An assault on the senses.
I've never heard a movie described good as relenting. I've never heard anyone say that, it's like, this is such a good relenting movie.
That's kind of connotates like an acquiescence.
Yeah. The King's
I'm breaking
Speech is a
out my
relenting movie.
thesaurus.
So Jane Eyre would be relenting. Then we're going to get into Picks of the Week. Our faves.
What's your problem?
Whatever floated our boat this week. So let's kick it off with Red Riding. John.
No, read.
Me? God.
Even though you didn't see it, we're still going to make you read the synopsis.
From the publicity department. For decades, the people of the village of Daggerhorn have maintained an uneasy truce with the werewolf, who prowls at every full moon. By offering the beast a monthly animal sacrifice to quench its appetite.
Was it a big word?
But under Blood Red Moon, the wolf changes the stakes by taking the life of one of their own. Freaking drooling.
It's a good... Wait, you should have seen the movie.
I'm drooling like a wolf.
There's a spoiler right in the summary. It's insane.
Yeah.
The victim is the older sister of Valerie, played by Amanda Seyfried, a beautiful young woman who has just found out that her parents have arranged for her to marry Henry, the scion of the town's wealthiest family. But Valerie wants Peter. Did you hear me? Valerie wants Peter.
Oh, well.
The poor
Why, Dick's not available?
The poor woodcutter she's loved all her life. Unwilling to be parted, the couple was planning to run away together. But, in a horrifying instant, the wolf changes everything. As the townspeople hunger for revenge, famed werewolf hunter Father Solomon, played by Gary Oldman, is summoned to Daggerhorn to kill the beast once and for all. But Solomon's arrival brings only more turmoil as he warns everyone that the werewolf takes human form by day and could be any one of them. No one is above suspicion. Panic grips the town as the death toll rises with each red moon, tearing apart the once close-knit village. But is it Valerie who discovers she has a unique connection to the wolf that inexorably draws them together, making her both suspect and bait?
Well, so now no one has to watch the first act of this movie since the summary is given. I can't believe they're spoiling that it's a werewolf and not just a wolf in the actual summary.
They should change the title to, what's her name?
Amanda Seyfried?
No, what's the character's name?
Valerie.
They should just change the title to Valerie Wants Peter. Then I'd go see it.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob, since you're a guest, why don't you explain? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your reaction to this epic?
Well, I feel so special.
Yeah, special Bob.
This movie is high camp. You know, it really wants to be Bram Stoker's Dracula for like 13-year-old girls in the worst way. It's kind of sort of trying to ride the Twilight sort of bandwagon. I think is pretty clear. But I actually had a lot of fun with it. I don't know if I had the fun they wanted me to have with it.
That sounds creepy.
I was thinking, what kind of fun is that?
It's like, no, I actually enjoy this movie. It's everything is turned up to 11. You know, everyone is speaking very loud, declarative sentences. It's like looks like a Shakespeare in the Park production of like Mother Goose, and it's very over the top. But I kind of like it. It's very pretty looking. It's trying real hard to affect the visual atmosphere like a fairy tale with a lot of gauzy filters and light coming down in big streams.
Didn't it look like it was filmed on a back lot, though?
It does. It does look like it was
filmed
on a back lot.
Why do all the trees have giant thorns sticking out?
Because that looks cool.
Yeah. So they're the woodcutter. I like the fact that in the synopsis they the wealthiest family in the village. He's a blacksmith.
Yeah.
Blacksmith
He's a
must
blacksmith.
be really paying.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Every guy in this movie except for like the fat clowny old men are like hunks waiting for an excuse to take their shirt off. So Amanda Seyfried can get even more bug-eyed.
Yeah, the guys are all in like ridiculously good shape. They have gelled hair, and square jaws, and
they live on a back lot.
Everyone's well shaven, but then again, Amanda Seyfried looks, is in infinitely better shape than any woman in the Middle Ages ever was. So, I'm not going to complain about it in her case. I can't really complain about it on the guys. It's that kind of movie.
So it appealed to the 13-year-old girl inside you.
How much?
You could say that.
I did.
Okay, but okay. So it was directed by Catherine Hardwicke.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
She sold her soul to the devil.
So how much does Twilight actually influence this movie?
Remember the first Twilight, the first one, and how crappy it was, and then they got better. This is like if there are subsequent Red Riding Hoods, and there probably will be. I hope they get better because this has all the faults of Catherine Hardwicke's original Twilight. It's got. This is to werewolves what Twilight was to vampires. It throws all the, we talked about this in our werewolf show.
Yep.
That one of the things
which we recorded a year ago,
right?
Like a year ago this month, possibly. Right. Anyway, weird.
But one of the things you want in a werewolf movie is a transformation scene.
Yeah.
You need to see someone turn into a wolf, not simply get contacts that give them yellow eyes. But this is what, PG?
Yeah, the PG-13 is hurting it bad.
Yeah, you can't have there's a dead body and they pose like they're on centerfolds with clothes on and a little dribble of blood coming out of their lip.
Yeah.
A wolf pushed her down and artistically clawed her cheek.
You can feel it straining against the PG-13 because it really conceptually wants to be very kinky and violent. There's the ultimate revelation of what's going on and who's who is very squicky. There's a lot of weird undercurrents going on. There's this whole, the basic meta text of the movie is like, Amanda Seyfried is now of age and therefore the entire world is going nuts. It's got this whole female sexuality as apocalypse thing going on. And
wow.
It's, you've got Gary Oldman torturing like an autistic village idiot in like like
a giant elephant.
He has a giant oven
I have
shaped
to
like
write.
an
What was
elephant.
that? Oh, excuse me. I'm just taking notes here. Female sexuality as apocalypse.
It has this whole female sexuality as advent of apocalypse thing going on,
which we know is true.
Oh yeah, Gary Oldman is torturing people by burning them, roasting them alive in an oven that's shaped like a giant brass elephant, and it's
that they drag from wherever the professional werewolf hunter lives.
Well, I think the idea is he's supposed to come from the Crusades because he's bringing a bunch of Moorish swordsmen with him, which I guess is the only place where they'd find like 7 black guys in wherever part of Middle Ages Europe this would be. So
yeah.
I think he's supposed to be a crusader is the idea, because it's also got this whole anti-religion, witch hunter thing going on, which I really liked.
It's funny because when the Moors, they step out of the carriage and they take their mask off, and they look like, what the heck are black people doing in this movie? Yeah. That's not my reaction. That's theirs.
Yeah, that's how the people seem to get over it quicker than you'd think people in what's supposed to be Dark Ages Europe. Sort of, they're just kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like that's pretty surprising, but we've got a werewolf, so.
Yeah, so black people do not
whatever.
at all. But you mentioned that the film turns it up to 11. The only thing that might have made this interesting for me if Gary Oldman turned it up to 11, because he does that so well. I was watching The Informer. No, wait. What was the one he did with the Oscar-winning actress of who won for Black Swan? Natalie Portman.
The Professional.
The Professional.
Yeah.
So I was watching that the other day. And there's a scene where, everyone's been killed in the house, and Gary Oldman says, oh, you better talk to everybody. Mm-hmm. And the guy goes, who? And he turns around and goes, I mean everybody! And he just screams at it. It was so twisted. And I was like, if that Gary Oldman, the younger, fitter, crazier Gary Oldman was in this movie, I would have been entertained. But we get the Dr. Smith Gary Oldman coming in here and just looking a little lost, doesn't really emote any lines.
Well, I imagine it's sort of like Book of Eli Gary Oldman. He's built up so much cash as being this bad guy that his presence gets people into the theater, and he kind of slums.
I liked him a little better here than Book of Eli. I hated the Book of Eli, but I liked him a little better because he's not all the way up. I think other people in the movie are a little higher. Like Julie Christie is way over the top in this.
Jesus, yeah.
But oh, by the way, Julie Christie's in this. I'm as surprised as I'm sure she is.
And what was that line you were telling me about the other day? My, what big eyes you have.
Oh, they do that.
Yeah, well, you kind of have to do it. This sort of movie is 2 actresses, both of whom very good actresses, one a legend, one an up-and-comer, reading each other the what big eyes you have grandma routine from Little Red Riding Hood in the most serious voice possible with swelling dramatic music, and the audience is howling.
Yeah.
So I can't say I didn't have a good time because that was a riot.
When it comes time for, after we sit through like an hour and a half, it's time to reveal who the wolf might be. I'm not going to spoil it.
So basically it's a mystery.
No, it's softcore porn for teenage girls.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's all about staring, and they go in the barn and make out.
Well, it's a little.
They don't have sex. They go in the barn and make out.
I think the implication is that they did, though. This is a little
7 minutes in heaven.
This is
that's what it is. It's 7 minutes of heaven in the barn between the poor woodworker and the hot young villager.
The improbably shapely village girl. I guess, what is she supposed to be, like 16, 17 in this movie? They're
the one who felt the apocalypse when you saw her.
Well, no, they're both, they're playing it like she just came of age,
right.
Like this is like a coming out party or something. And Amanda Seyfried looks like she's about 26, which is, she's a great looking 26.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but when I was a boy, girls didn't look like this.
You can almost hear the wolves going, she's of age.
Yeah.
Smell it. That's it.
And that seems to be the implication of the movie. It's kind of a hotter, heavier sort of thing than Twilight is, in a way, because Twilight is all about, virginity and abstinence. The whole thing is this one big abstinence metaphor. And in this one, it's more like the guys doing the abstinence metaphor are the bad guys. It's all, like Twilight is, sex is bad, you'll become a vampire, it's evil, don't do it, girls. And this one is more like, yeah, go for it, check it out. It's got kind of a thing.
Go make out in the barn.
Yeah.
So what was the other connection you'd mentioned, that there's the dual love interest or something?
Well, yeah, that because she's the daughter of a poor drunken wood chopper, played by the dad from
Billy
Twilight,
Burke.
Billy Burke. Fantastic.
Wood chopping
driving, driving angry. I guess not, considering the whole village is made of wood. Somehow, and they have like one horse. Somehow, blacksmithing is the more profitable business to be in. So yeah,
Well, he makes the axes, though.
yeah,
Yeah,
the axes. Yeah,
It is kind of weird reveal that like the pretentious rich guy and the poor guy, they're both basically blue collar trades.
yeah. But one's got blonde hair, so he's good. One's got darker hair, he's bad. One of them, wouldn't think of making out with a girl. That's the blacksmith. He's too rugged for that. But the thing that was killing me is that, so they're getting towards the end. They've got to solve the mystery of the werewolf forest, and I swear, Catherine Hardwicke gives us a close-up of everybody in the fucking movie.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose.
I mean, and if just because it's like, oh, here's a recognizable star, let's move in closer. Here's his nose, here's his eyes, here's his forehead. It's like being in, remember Boomtown? If you grew up around here, Rex Trailers Boomtown, where they line all the kids would walk past, and you'd have to pick out the bad guy. And then it's a reference no one's going to get but me.
That's cool.
But it's the same kind of thing where, because the plot doesn't set you up for her big reveal, she suddenly throws all the cards on the floor and says, okay, one of those is the right one.
Yeah.
And so shows us them all. And I swear, when she finally tells you who it is, I was like, what the fuck? He hasn't been in the movie for the last 20 minutes.
It's a pretty. It is a creepy. I'll give them points that when they eventually get to who the werewolf is versus the way it's been acting and the implications of it throughout the movie, it's a pretty creepy twist. It's a little squicky given the way that it has been behaving earlier. It's kind of like, this is now a whole other level of weird on top of this. I'll give them points for that. I don't know that the mystery works better than the love interest thing. The love interest thing doesn't work at all. You could throw the blacksmith guy out of the movie and not change the story of this at all.
Somewhere on the cutting room floor, there's a scene of the wood chopper and the blacksmith making out in the barn.
Could you play this as a double feature with Sleepy Hollow? I mean, is it the same?
No. Sleepy Hollow had a sense of humor and a sense of fun about it. This I think it took itself way too seriously, and it was too tailored for the Twilight market. It just was, like I said, the story wasn't there to support what was going on. There's
a broader subject. What are movies doing like these days with PG-13 the right, or the roommate, or the
marketing,
making their money back?
It's
You can't. Guillermo del Toro had.
Team Terror.
I assume we may have heard about this. Guillermo del Toro, the director of Pan's Labyrinth, had set up he's going to do H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness at Universal. He had James Cameron producing. It was going to be shot in 3D. They had Tom Cruise lined up to be the star of it. So whatever, big, huge monster movie, epic thing, probably a big hit. And the studio just pulled the plug on it this week because he would not budge on an R rating. Because he said it's H.P. Lovecraft, it has to be R-rated. Yeah. And they said we can't do it because teenagers can't go see an R-rated movie, and they're the only ones going to movies these days.
No, you see, there was a
that is just such an indication of the whole shift in cinema. And the fact that it's infantilized.
I don't know if it's infantilized, but it is right now. Adolescent movies have always been kind of the biggest money makers, like going back at least as far as the late 70s, pretty much since Star Wars. If you want to make money,
if you talk about the main audience from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, then I would make the case that it has been from that perspective.
Oh yeah, because the adults are at home watching primetime TV now.
Since the 70s,
but it also shows an awful shift in kids. Because some of my best and earliest movie memories were getting into R-rated movies. And whether you had to buy a ticket for another show, and when they first had multiplexes, I'll buy for the animated G-rated movie in Theater 1 and go into Theater 4 where they're showing Vanishing Point.
Yeah, try doing that now.
Now, fortunately, I'm 51.
Well, no, but I mean, it's like try being a kid now doing that. I mean, I did the same thing when I was a kid. I think I'm 30, but when I was a kid, I would do, sneak into the R-rated movies and whatnot. The thing is, back then, that was, I'm going to sneak into the R-rated movie. Now you have these websites with these. Can I curse on this?
Sure.
Okay. With these fucking assholes like Brent Bazell and the Parents Television Council and these god-bothering busybodies, who, they're their whole existence is picketing R-rated movies that might have kids go see them, and these are the people that send letters to Comedy Central when the South Park kids say a bad word. And now if you have an R-rated movie and people even think you're marketing to kids or whatnot, even ironically, they're going to freak the hell out. So it's a whole different thing. I think the MPAA ratings should be restructured so that it's up to the theaters, so that if the theater wants to let 13-year-olds into R-rated movies, they can. And if you have a problem with that, maybe you should watch your kids better. But that's just me.
You call them God-mongering what?
God-bothering assholes.
All letters should be sent to... What's your email? No, send them to us. We'll forward them.
Contact at post-movie.net.
Yeah, I'm to the degree that the Parents Television Council is aware of me, I'm sure I'm already on their shit list.
All right, so as a sidebar, what was the first R-rated movie you saw?
Animal House. I'm pretty sure it was Animal House.
God. I want to say it was something cool, but it was probably like one of the Friday the 13th or something shitty like that. The first one I remember like really wanting to see and seeing was RoboCop, which is my favorite movie of all time. But I love it.
Man, I fucking love that.
It
just blew me away.
They're building the statue. They're building a statue of RoboCop in Detroit. Someone asked a mayor of Detroit, you should build a statue of RoboCop, and he said, "That's stupid. I'm not going to do it."
Absolutely exemplifies the destruction of society.
The minute the mayor said it,
is a symbol of societal implosion.
A charitable organization immediately came to life to raise the money for, secure, and build a RoboCop statue in Detroit, and they are going to do it.
Can't they just use that money to build RoboCop and save Detroit?
But it's
Peter Weir's not doing much.
If you build it, they will come. What did Rocky do for Philadelphia?
I would go to
you
Detroit.
go there, you get a photo taken.
I'd fly over.
To see the RoboCop statue, I'd go. I might leave right away.
Can they put it at the airport?
I don't know.
You know what they did in Salem? They built Elizabeth Montgomery, Bewitched, in the middle of the Salem.
I love that.
And it was a boon for the area. Once they built that statue, the little mall that surrounded that area, okay, maybe it's in bad taste to put a statue of a fictional TV witch in a city where actual witches got burned to death and hung and whatnot, but that whole area around where that statue was is now a little more high-end and whatnot. I spend a lot of time in Salem.
That is the coffee shop, I'm telling you.
Plus, Elizabeth Montgomery's hot.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. There's a statue of Andy Griffith in, Philadelphia.
He's not
I
hot.
thought it might be in Mayberry, North Carolina, but I'm telling you, I exited the coffee shop and I stood there looking at the statue and I thought, man, that looks like Amanda.
There's a Ralph Cramden statue in New York.
Yeah, at the Port Authority.
Yep.
So, someday.
It's about tourism, I suppose.
Who do I have to send money to get a statue of the Super Mario Brothers in Bensonhurst?
But Bob, would you go to Detroit just to see the freaking RoboCop statue? People go there to go to. There's the Joe Louis fist.
Since I could probably write an article about it and write it off, yeah, probably.
I went to the. I spent some time at the airport in Detroit, and one of my editors, Tim Miller at the Cape Cod Times, is from Detroit. God bless him. And so I was at the airport, and I went into the card shop, and I said, I need to get a postcard that just says Detroit. So when this guy gets it, he's going to know I was in Detroit. And she goes, well, get the tire. And I go, what? And it's a postcard of a giant rubber tire that's, located along the highway. She goes, just send that. He'll know.
Yeah.
And I had that.
We used to love driving by that as a kid. My grandmother lived in Grosse Pointe, and that was one of the touch points of the trip.
It's like the giant blue...
was driving by the tire.
There's a giant blue bug when you drive through Rhode Island, the top of the pesticide place. Did you have a Faygo when you were in Detroit?
A Faygo?
It's their version of Soda Pop.
I've never...
It's like Fanta. Fanta with a different label.
There's 50 Insane Clown Posse fans listening right now going, yeah, Faygo!
ICP!
Oh, God.
All right, anyway,
I'm not going to say anything bad. I know somebody.
Obviously,
we got to move on to Battle Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Which has happened.
All right.
Last night.
Wasn't it? I mean, last night we sat and watched a city being destroyed, and I woke up this morning to see Tokyo in ruins, or Japan in ruins from an earthquake. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird to see actual buildings and destruction after sitting through 2 hours of computer-generated destruction last night. Just a sidebar there.
Is that the sound you're...
Yeah, I'm going to turn it off.
Oh.
Can I just say, people on Twitter who are writing about the tsunami, but trending topic Godzilla on it, knock that off. That's not funny. People are dying. That's not funny.
But in happier news, we saw the movie last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like an assault on the senses. I mean, it is it's science fiction, yes, but it is a war movie. I mean, like...
No. The synopsis.
For years, John, there have been documented cases of UFO sightings around the world. Buenos Aires, Seoul, France, South Korea, China, Tokyo, probably, too. But in 2001, what were once just sightings will become a terrifying reality when Earth is attacked by unknown forces. As people everywhere will watch the world's greatest cities fall, Los Angeles becomes the last stand for mankind in a battle no one expected. It's up to a Marine Staff Sergeant, played by Aaron Eckhart, and his new platoon to draw a line in the sand as they take on an enemy unlike anything they've ever encountered before.
Unless they saw Section 9.
And that is what you get.
Right, yeah.
Or, yeah, District 9.
District 9, that was
Skyline. Right.
Yeah.
Section 9 was Denver State, right? Yeah.
So you were talking about this being, I agree it was an assault on my senses, but you made it sound like that was a good thing.
I mean, man, like 45 minutes into this, I'm like, damn, man, I'm like trembling. I need a break. You know, there's a point where even a war movie needs a moment to breathe.
There's a point where any movie needs a steady cam shot that doesn't have the camera like the cameraman was drunk. It just sways all over the place. I mean,
it's a big budget newsreel kind of thing. Big budget.
This is
you know, and as war movies are done, you know, because you can't. I mean, you know, you can't realistically, in the realistic sense that Hollywood does something, film battle footage as it's like, let's do a tracking shot.
Sure you can.
It's moving really smoothly.
You know, Battle of the Bulge.
But but those are older films. That was.
Well, even
they didn't. Part of the reason was one can make the case the technology wasn't available. But now, you know, as you know, coverage has been influenced by or films have been influenced by actual coverage of war movies. You get the handheld camera.
This one's more influenced by YouTube, where any fool with a video camera
or
can
YouTube.
make a movie.
I think you were thinking of Cloverfield.
Well, Cloverfield, that god-awful horror movie. Blair Witch, you know, but there was just, it's fine. If it's used sparingly to enhance the sense of action in the scene, fine. But there are scenes with people talking here, and the camera swings back and forth like it's on a
because you were there with them.
No, you never look. No, I can understand cutting from one person to another, but if I'm standing there and it's just swaying back and forth, they're both in the shot, but the camera just doesn't stop.
I blame some of this on video games too. And you know, coming from that world as I
or NYPD.
Yeah. Well, I'm on my way to the Penny Arcade Expo today, so video games on the brain. But you know, the trend now in video games is these, you know, first-person shooters, and in a lot of them, it's also trendy to not have, you know, cut scenes to tell the story anymore, where it's just the characters are talking about it around you, and you're supposed to jerk back and forth and look at who's talking. And I think a lot of that comes in now.
Plus, I suck at those games so bad. When I do a first-person shooter, all you see is my character's feet as he runs up the stairs.
Yeah,
I've forgotten to look up. But so anyway, this
is, you know, it's very first-person. We're introduced to the aliens as the Marines are. So, you know, we meet the Marines for the first 20, 30 minutes, and we get a sense of everyone's camaraderie and the questionable nature of their togetherness, and the fact that Aaron Eckhart, as the leader of this platoon, has all these new guys. They don't know if they trust each other. I can't say that the movie isn't predictable, because after something horrible happens, you build trust with, you know, your comrades.
So there's a Black Hawk Down with alien
That's
bodies.
an issue that's never been explored in a war movie.
So that was new.
But when you talk about them introducing characters, I was just sitting there going, they're lining us up so we'll remember them once the shit starts to hit the fan. Because like when you have a character who wears black-rimmed glasses and give him the nickname Specs, I'm like, okay, come on, really?
Well, yeah,
Couldn't
you know,
you
it
call
was
Black Guy number two?
cliche, but I think a lot of what I found interesting about the movie is it's obviously an alien invasion film, and the whole idea of, like, you know, like in Skyline, you're like, man, I want to see the aliens. I'm curious to see how this confrontation, this revelation is going to happen, and from that angle, it was really freaking cool. But I also want to make the point that since this movie is unrelenting, it's like an assault on the senses. It has Inception moments with those deep, that kind of like vastness or whatever.
They can't hear my mouth falling open, but Inception-like moments.
Inception.
It had loud.
You mean the music from Inception?
The music from Inception, where the whole place just shakes. And
where this is like the new thing now is to turn the bass up really loud,
or
like
Tron
on a horn hit. Now is like this. Now every movie trailer is like the rhythm of trailers used to be cut to rock music. Now every trailer is trying to do dun 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 dun. Bah!
Exactly.
But don't you feel like that's just there because there's nothing on the screen to pay attention to?
Well, I think so.
But it's also it's like a sensation grabber. It forces you to be like, it's like a forced overwhelm.
Well, it's like the action movie version of that thing in horror movies where, in lieu of putting an actual sound effect in the scene to signify, wait, what's over there, someone just hits 12 keys on the piano all at once.
Yeah, and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And so the movie it's one, basically it's very simple. It's just one action scene to the next, where you are introduced to new characters, Michael Pena and his family, Michelle Rodriguez, who's a tech sergeant who comes in.
Oh, Michelle Rodriguez is a soldier?
I think she is the cutest Marine I've ever seen.
Wow, that's such a stretch for her after playing that exact same part in the last 7 movies that she's made.
Yes, but in no other movie has she actually shot at aliens and seriously said to the camera, "They're falling like bowling pins." Quote from the movie.
Well, my favorite line was the one where they were in the front of the truck. They were in the front of the tank, and they're making an escape. And one of the aliens comes running head on, right, and smashes up against the windshield. And she takes the gun, and starts blowing out its chest. She's like, "Oh, it's got its alien goop all over my lips."
You're not putting me off seeing this movie.
You allow them to do that on the first date? That's the follow-up line.
But of course there was going to be similarities with this and Independence Day. Of course there was going to be similarities with, District 9, I guess, in a way, but maybe more so Independence Day. In other words, you have to find the one thing that's wrong with the larger mechanism in order to destroy everything.
Video game rules again. You shoot the last guy, everyone else has to go home. No matter what. They've still got all the weapons. They're still down there.
It's it's the Borg intelligence. You can't take out all the little drones, but if you take out the main computer.
But that's Star Trek. It must be a Star Wars.
It's just a simple mechanism in order to solve the problem of what appears to be an unstoppable force.
And thank God, Michelle Rodriguez happens to be a technical expert as well as a kick-ass Marine.
Yep.
And Aaron Eckhart, who spends most of this movie sticking his chin out at the camera.
Yeah.
Like, I dare you to say anything. I dare you to say I'm not this guy.
Well, he is a chin guy, though.
But if this was in 3D, you'd want to sit way back. He swings that chin like a bat.
Jesus.
He does.
Well, the mechanism thing, though, that does kind of go back to Star Wars, though, where in the first Star Wars and Return of the Jedi, they blow up the Death Star and war over.
Thank you, Bob, for mentioning Star Wars.
Even though all the stormtroopers are presumably still on all the planets, and the Empire must have this really vast mechanism. No. They killed the head guy and blew up our big space bubble. Therefore, the war's over and they won.
Right.
It's like capture the flag. It's like I got the flag. Well,
right.
But I could shoot you. But it's like no, we got the it's a sci-fi trope.
This is a capture the flag movie. When Aaron Eckhart's chin captures the flag in its giant clef, he forgoes breakfast, reloads his gun, and says, "What next? Now we're gonna everything you've done to save the world has been transmitted to every other government in the world. You can have breakfast now." No,
this movie is. Let's for a moment assume that some of our listeners have seen Skyline.
You defended it.
I'm real sorry.
This is much more epic than Skyline. It's a much more vast film, and I think the action scenes in this film are really damn good. It's just a whole lot of it. Really, the movie wasn't paced very well. It was paced in a very warlike intensity. I guess that totally makes sense. But I almost felt like, Jesus, man, it was almost like Saving Private Ryan-ish in a way. I mean, it was not. No. Don't get me wrong, John. No, I'm not going there.
No,
I'm not saying this is Best Picture. This is
no.
You know,
But I think the difference is that
I'm talking about the unrelenting intensity of it.
But
it's like getting hit over the head with a pipe.
But because Private Ryan gave you the breathing spaces to know the characters and to relax.
Right. There is absolutely no comparison.
No, because and then when there are the few,
I'm not trying to make a character comparison. I'm trying to make
the moments of calm in this are filled with such cliche claptrap.
Totally cliche.
To generate,
totally cliche.
It's almost they should have been handing out red shirts because you know who's going to die, or who's going to learn a lesson and back up the staff sergeant.
Totally predictable.
So it just wasn't, and then, again, the relentlessness of it was just.
But it was fun. It was. No. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I know you.
But granted, there were some moments early on where I was like, oh man, this better change up because I could see myself.
Well, the first half hour is just setting up people to get down later.
Before it got down to like some pretty cool alien shit.
Because this is the staff sergeant's. He's about to retire after 20 years. He's only got to train this one last group and make them combat ready, and then he's out of here. Yeah. Although the Marines is all he's ever known.
Is he too old for this shit?
He is.
He is too old for this shit.
But then the invasion happens. He has to go back.
Right.
But guys got killed in his last battle. So he's including the brother of one of the soldiers. So there's lessons to be learned here. And
I hope the brother of that dead soldier doesn't hold him partially responsible for it, and play out in key dramatic moments.
You nailed it.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yep. But
surprising.
Can you imagine he might learn a lesson from the staff sergeant? Turn around
I think
and
he just
him?
might. I think he just might.
Huh.
That would not. That would be something. That would be a turn. If it is such a military-centric story, I can ask this. Before going to see it, does it make any sort of attempt at being like a relevant military-esque story?
Yeah.
In the sense. No, I mean, I don't want. I'm not looking for any sort of spoiler for it, but like I'm looking at a lot of these movies now, and I'm thinking, okay, so the aliens are an overwhelming force, and the humans seem to be a smaller guerrilla army against an overwhelming military force. Is this aiming for like an Iraq metaphor? Like perhaps are the aliens
like the funky camaraderie is like painful. I'd rather be in Afghanistan.
Are the aliens aiming at perhaps a resource on the planet that they may have brought things there for?
Yes. But you only find out because every time they turn on a computer or a TV, there's a news broadcast.
Ah, well.
That tells them the next thing they need to do to move the plot forward.
Fox, MSNBC, CNN, or generic?
I think it's CNN.
Okay.
But I want to make special mention of Bridget Moynihan.
Cool.
Who is
iRobot.
She gets found with this group of there's a dad, 2 kids, and Bridget Moynihan. Although she's not related to them, she's just there, and they actually try to force some kind of romantic exchange between Eckhart and Moynihan, but just through like 2 sentences, or like he'll say something, she stares at him. She shows up in the background of more shots in this movie, just looking concerned. It's like, oh, there's the guy laying dead. And
that's part of acting. If you want part of learning to be a good actor is learn how to practice your concern look. Spielberg casts people. Like he cast a number of his, the kids and some of the players in Jurassic Park for how they react to the dinosaurs. In here, it's like, how do you react to these aliens and spaceships?
She just kind of stares at the camera.
Well, the 2 signature Spielberg shots, are lights coming through fog and people looking at lights coming through fog.
Well, this is a very smoky film.
Oh, okay. No. Fog.
You never and I hope it's not just because they didn't have the budget, but the aliens are always filmed like in smoke or quick cuts until they finally establish themselves as looking like giant gonads on legs.
It's a low budget movie, so I'm going to assume that it was probably to hide the budget. They actually spent a lot less on it than it looks like. I've seen some of the making of and effects stuff, and I think this was, like District 9, a fairly low budget movie. Not low budget like Monsters was, where I guess they spent like $1,500 on it or something.
Monsters was kind of interesting.
I did not like Monsters, but I admire what they're trying to do. I'm glad that guy is directing the new Godzilla movie, and I'm really not so glad that they're letting him write it, because Monsters had a god-awful fucking script. But
with this, Skyline falls into the PG-13 thing.
Yeah.
So again, I think they got 1, maybe 2 fucks.
Wasn't Skyline an R?
Yeah. No. I'm sorry. I meant to say Battle Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Battle Los Angeles falls into the PG-13 thing.
It is a PG-13.
So it's like
Skyline was rated R, though, right? Because all the monsters look like vaginas.
Well, they did rip people's heads open and pull their brains out, so I would assume that would have to be an R.
That's like Saturday morning.
And there was a little. There's the only thing that I liked about Skyline was that when I got around to it is that these are basically like 1950s aliens. Like they've literally come here to suck out our brains.
War of the Worlds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Which they stole from Starship Troopers.
But Starship Troopers gleefully let you know they look like vaginas.
Yeah, well, Starship Trooper, when the big brain bug comes out, it looks like that. I remember being in the theater and not quite getting it because I was like 12. You know, I think when Starship Troopers came out, no, I was a little older than 12.
But it was also parody propaganda.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
Starship Troopers was.
There's no sense of humor in this. This is all very
very little humor.
But they did kind of look like
a lot
gonads on sticks.
It's a tradition for aliens to look like sex organs ever since Alien. I think that it, like Alien changed the rule that now all aliens have to look like sex organs of some kind.
Let that pause stay in the recording. I'm just staring at him.
Yeah, I was thinking back to what you had said about the.
I'm racing through a litany of space aliens in my head to make sure they all look like sex organs.
Think of aliens since Alien.
looks like an old man's scrotum and penis.
A little bit, yeah. Before Alien, but no, it actually E.T. was that.
Sigourney Weaver looks like an old man's. No, that's not fair to Miss Weaver.
No, she's.
Paul, well, that's a huge.
Look, John, would you pay what, $10, $11 for this?
No.
I wouldn't. I mean, I do a matinee. You know, I wasn't totally matinee video.
I'm the wrong person to ask because I don't pay to see these.
Yeah, well, there's that.
I don't have I don't have a frame of reference for that anymore.
You have to be empathetic to it, though.
Yeah, okay.
You have to. Okay, moving on to picks of the week. John.
Closer, bro. Do you want to just mention Closer, bro?
Let's get on with
we've been yakking for a while, so maybe we can just mention
the Harvard Film Archive. I guess we should remind people, in case they don't know, that we broadcast, or we record. We don't really broadcast. It's just recording. Yeah. We record in Boston. We're Boston journalists, so we cover the film scene around here in Boston. And the Harvard Film Archive, across the river in Cambridge, has a series of Claude Chabrol films coming up. The Murderous Art of Claude Chabrol, and they are showing a number of his films, which are some of them very hard to find, and they press screened a few of them over the past couple of weeks. And John and I saw a couple the other day. John, in one sense, if you could try to imagine someone reacting to having their fingers scratched on a blackboard while watching the film, but then John did not see Le Bon Femme, which I thought was just... No.
I saw that on the screener.
Oh, you saw it on the screener? Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that the one about the 4 Parisian chicks? It's in black and white?
Yeah.
And they're hanging out, talking all the time?
I thought it was terrific.
I love that movie.
Terrific.
In fact, I have a little bit of a reputation, and greatly deserved, of not liking French movies. But seriously, except for if it's like Amelie or anything with her in it,
right?
You know, I kind of watch those, but I generally avoid French movies. It's too much work.
John, I got to tell you, we are late on this because Le Bon Femme screens tonight.
Well,
in the podcast, we won't have.
We'll rent it.
Yeah,
you can rent it because that one I like.
People
check it out on DVD.
Yeah, but the thing is, seeing that movie, and I watched
The Pleasure Party.
No, that one
we'll
leave for that one.
Next week.
There were 2 other ones I watched.
This Man Must Die.
Yes, that one. And
I think
La Femme Infidèle.
Yeah.
And that really, it shocks me to say this, it inspired me to stop watching a lot of French films. I just watched Elevated to the Gallows, The Pickpocket, 400 Blows, Cyrano de Bergerac. I'm all over the map with this because I just Netflix. Oh, it's French. I'll watch it.
There you go.
So I up until I went to see this one,
The Pleasure Party,
I was having fun with French films.
Yeah.
A lot of them were the black and white from the 50s. They had cool jazz soundtracks.
The new wave.
Yeah. But then I go to see this Pleasure Weekend, and I stood up at the end and I go, that's just what I hate about French movies.
Yeah.
It was
well, you know, this is Chabrol, and this is not I think that is like absolutely less new wave-ish for him.
Oh yeah,
and it was like bad 70s.
Right.
It was almost. I'm gonna get into this later. It was almost Amarcordish in a way it was about a small town that was very secluded, and everybody kind of knew each other, and you got to
fuck each other.
You were introduced to everybody at the beginning, and all these characters. It was just inevitably not the best of Chabrol's films.
No, but
his earlier stuff, which they're going to be. Well, they're doing the what's called the Murderous Art of Claude Chabrol at Harvard from the March 11th to the 27th.
I would definitely check some out. And in fact, just go. I think, especially if you're not familiar with French films, it'd be just good to go one night and see what's playing, whatever it is. And it'll either inspire you to watch more French films the way it did me, or to hate French films the way I will soon become again.
Did you like This Man Must Die?
I don't think I saw that one. Did I? Yeah, I think I liked that one. There were 3 of them.
It really is worth it to check out the French New Wave, just as for people who are into movies, because those run of guys, the guys who came out of Cahiers du Cinéma, with Claude Chabrol and Godard and Truffaut, who they're responsible for so much of what we use as film language now, and they've influenced so much of it. I mean, we wouldn't have the word film noir without them. We wouldn't have the retro. They're the ones who got on it and said, Hollywood, the guys you've been praising from your golden age are the wrong guy. You should be looking at the gangster movies, and they rehabilitated Hitchcock from this guy who was a popular movie maker who had a TV show to a genuine artist in the eyes of film criticism. And of course they all it didn't last. They all went off in their way. Chabrol went off and went on his own thing in the 70s and had this kind of Fellini wannabe thing going on, and Godard kind of fell off the deep end and went off on his Maoist politics thing, and then Truffaut stayed pretty much on track and got called a sellout for it.
I was talking to Steve about this. Do you remember the name of that documentary that just came out? And it was about...
The New Wave.
Yeah, about Godard and Truffaut. It's a great introduction to all this, because I didn't have that kind of background in it. I saw a couple of Truffaut, I saw a couple of bad Godards, and never wanted to see him again.
What you needed was the good Godard.
Right,
bad Godard.
Right, but I started with King Lear, and that's an awful movie. Then I went back to Breathless, and Pierre Le Fou, and Circle.
God, the one with Jack Palance. I'm not remembering the name.
Repulsion, Regression, something.
Well, Repulsion.
So it's funny to be in the game this long and rediscover.
Was that Godard or Polanski?
Repulsion was Polanski.
Repulsion was Polanski.
Right.
But I know that with Brigitte Bardot and Jack Palance.
Made in USA, which came out on Criterion last year, terrific.
Right.
The one with Palance and God, I can
Brigitte Bardot, right?
And the guy who directed Metropolis.
Fritz Lang.
Fritz Lang is in it, and I can't remember the name of the freaking film. All right, whatever.
Anyway, I would highly recommend checking it out and exploring the wonderful world of cinema de mer.
It is beautiful to see these films on the screen at Harvard.
That's the thing.
They really do.
Support the Harvard
really
Film
see the
Archive,
grain,
because it's a great service. It's a great resource.
And what I mean by you really see the grain is you're seeing these prints that that I think Harvard got some of them from the French consulate in New York. Some I think are from their own collection, but they're the actual.
They're not showing a Blu-ray DVD project on the screen. This is actual.
Yeah, this is the real thing.
And part of really appreciating cinema, the nuance of cinema, is that there's the grain structure to these films that you can't get on
the old
DVD.
black and white ones. I mean, Paris in 1959, 58, beautiful.
Yeah, this is our last record of a lot of this stuff.
I was just taken with the luminosity of Le Bon Femme. It was really an interesting expose of the nightlife.
Yeah.
And also the other film. What we saw another one before.
No, you did.
Pleasure Party. Was it?
You went to one the day before.
God, I forget the name. It was influenced or had a similar sort of sensibility to La Dolce Vita. And I can't remember the darn name. Was it La Femme Infidèle? Okay, moving on.
Yep.
Going to go from French to Italy for my pick of the week, which is Amarcord on Blu-ray from Criterion. And wow.
Yeah.
I watched it on a 60-inch widescreen. Blu-ray, and it just looked amazing. I mean, Amarcord may represent like some people consider it like the beginning of the latter third of his of the downward trend or latter third of Fellini's career, but it's kind of a pinnacle. I mean, it's so representative so specifically of what he's his effect on filmmaking, what he does. And what I really loved about this is that, well, first of all, for those who don't know, the movie isn't really a narrative. It's more like a collection of stories that take place in the town of Rimini in Italy, where Fellini is from. But it's not documentary. It's more like a fanciful version of it, because they didn't film anything in Rimini. They built all the sets at Cinecittà in Rome, and so it has a sort of like a fantasy circus feel to everything. But what I think was really amazing to watch is that I've always thought that
Fellini
was gross
and gross.
Because grotesque.
Okay.
Grotesque. I'm sorry. He pursued an interesting philosophy, which was he was a cartoonist, and in a way, like I'm going to make a Jerry Lewis Frank Tashlin comparison. Frank Tashlin was he was a cartoonist, and he was criticized for, I think we mentioned this before, his cartoons. He was criticized for making his cartoons more human and his live-action movies less human. And in a way, it's like Fellini does that. He was a cartoonist, a caricaturist who cast his films based on his drawings. So he found the most unusual-looking people. I mean, maybe regarding their acting talent to some extent, they make for this conglomeration of a film that is it's fascinating to watch. But what I learned through watching this new version of Amarcord, which is different than the one that Criterion put out in 1998, because they actually struck this print from a new from the original camera negative in Rome a couple of years ago, so it's very new. It's really as good as it can get. But what I learned was what Fellini likes to represent is the disassociation between the head and the body. He's intellectual, but every time each of these characters, or a lot of times the characters espouse any sort of intellectualism, the body reacts to it. So there's a lot of that's where the sort of the grotesqueness I think comes from. It's a reaction to the intellectualism of the characters in the film. But anyway, it's really an astounding. The experience of the disc is a very scholarly one. You can really learn a lot about Fellini just by watching Amarcord and how far he's come since La Dolce Vita and 8½, which many people still consider his greatest films. I think some people don't consider this his greatest film, and I was surprised it was released by Roger Corman.
A lot of them were. He had a big run of those initially. A lot of the new wave and the Italian. Now I'm forgetting what the Italians called their version of the new wave. But like Fellini and Bergman too, both a lot of their earliest stuff and their biggest stuff got released by schlock houses in America because there was because there was so much nudity and so much freaky imagery. They could sell them as drive-in pictures.
There are some astonishing moments in Amarcord that couldn't, I think, really be widely distributed in 1973, especially the car masturbation scene. Which was like, oh my God.
Masturbates?
Yeah, they watch the movie. I don't want to do that.
It's my first. It's a good follow-up to what we were talking about with the French New Wave and Chabrol, is that it's fun to find a movie director like this, or someone with a strong point of view like this, and go through their work. I remember the first Fellini I saw was Casanova, and Donald Sutherland playing the legendary lover. And I was just so shocked and blown away by it all. I was young, and I remember he's rowing a boat on inflated garbage bags. That's not even water. And it was like, who the hell is this guy, Fellini? And then you learn. I've read books, I've seen the movies. Some of them work, some of them don't. Some of them work for me and won't work for you. I don't like 8½.
It's interesting that he persisted so well with his art that he was loved and hated, reviled and held on a pedestal. Do Italians really? Are they so overly dramatic that at the drop of the hat they'll threaten suicide over just the most minuscule of events? Or is it just this
show of hands who's dated an Italian Italian woman. So
yeah, I mean, some Italians just resented that portrayal. It doesn't portray them as being level-headed. It's like clownish.
His films are so operatic in scale.
Yeah.
You know that, and you know, when you mentioned that he did cast for faces a lot. You know, he draws something and goes, "Oh, this is what the village guy looks like," and then you go find someone.
Yeah, and
like
if the
that.
face didn't, he put the makeup on, you know, to actually give it that better representation.
And you see that a lot in Woody Allen films where it's just the crowd shots or characters are based on faces. It's more obvious in like Stardust Memories, but throughout a lot of his movies, it's just the people in the background that seem to be cast more for their face.
It's really cool to see Fellini now, especially because he's one of those filmmakers who, you know, even though you know people know the name, I think a lot of people mainly know him as, oh yes, it's a bunch of movies that are really good, but that, you know, I've never seen. Mm-hmm. You know, it's one of those names. But when you see them now, you go back and watch these movies from the 60s and 70s that, you know, were coming out of him, and you see, especially in the ones that are more visually opulent and you know, the later ones like Casanova, where it's so much about, you know, yes, it's artificial and that's what we're going for. You can see, you know, these would become the things that film students who became music video directors would go to. Like, you watch late period Fellini, you're watching the seed getting planted for every shitty MTV video of the 80s with, you know, the breaking glass and the blowing curtains and whatnot. It's, you know, you look at it and say, wow, this sort of thing goes that far back. You know, it's like you watch, you know, Goddard and the French New Wave guys, and it's like, okay, this is where Quentin Tarantino comes from, basically, and that kind of thing.
And you talk about adding to our film lexicon.
Yes.
This does.
Oh, yeah.
Very much.
Fellini-esque.
Oh, yeah.
And Hitchcockian are about the only two. But a lot of people drop that, like, oh, that's very Fellini-esque, without having ever seen a Fellini film. Just because if there's a fat lady and a lot of makeup, they go, oh, that's very Fellini-esque.
Fellini-esque is like the Kafka-esque of movie language now, and nobody knows what it means.
There's this greater meaning to it that's really entertaining.
Right.
Like, there's this scene in Amarcord, that's the correct
Your mic's about to
pronunciation.
fall off.
Oh, thanks. Sorry. Like, there's this scene in Amarcord where it's totally representative of the systems being stronger or being more influential than the people that are actually delivering the message. Like, he goes into this, he has these scenes that deal with fascism and the fog of fascism and how fog blinds people and, you know, they can't see what they're doing. But then there's also this scene where this crazy guy goes up a tree and they can't get him out. He's up this tree, he's like screaming for a woman. He just wants to make love to a woman. And the only way that they can get him out is to call the church. So the church shows up, and it's this dwarf nun who goes from the car to climb up the ladder like a fire, you know, fighter to get this guy out of the tree. And it was just like, wow. I mean, it's so symbolic of the fact that, like, you know, it's not the imposing nature of the person delivering the message, but here comes the church, so he's coming out. It's Fellini, man. I mean, I just don't.
There's so much of it that I just say, yeah, it's Fellini, man. But the thing is, it's such a rich, and everything is really there for a reason that you can go get books and study Fellini and know why there's a midget nun and why the guy's up in a tree, or you can just sit there and watch and laugh and go, yes, this is twisted.
Yeah.
So,
Best foreign film, 1973. Highly recommended.
And can you imagine a movie that, you know, out there, foreign or not, getting nominated for anything these days? You know, of that, you know, now, you know, like back then, you know, when you had the best foreign films existed so that they could give Oscars to people like Fellini, and now we find the foreign movie that's most American and we give it to that.
What won this year?
This year, I couldn't say, because the only one of the nominees I saw was Beautiful. So
Not a very American movie.
No,
and it didn't win.
Yep.
Well, what's that saying? I wrote. God, what is that saying?
Did you find the quote?
I did.
All right.
People see otherness only in terms of themselves.
That's good. Yeah, that's worth finding. I like that.
The American version of the best foreign film reasoning lately.
Cool.
But hey, can't.
Do you have a pick of the week you'd like to recommend?
Yeah, sure. Keeping on the two subjects of you know, we had a campy werewolf movie and you know, French stuff. I have a French werewolf movie people should check out called Brotherhood of the Wolf.
From the 80s.
Came out actually early 2000s. From
Brotherhood of the Wolf? I thought
you might be thinking of In the Company of Wolves, which was English/French from Neil Jordan. This one was a Christophe Gans movie with Monica Bellucci, Vincent Cassel, Samuel L. Behan, and Mark Dacascos. And this is it's very much, if you see Little Red Riding Hood and you want to see what that would look like as an actual R-rated movie, see this one. This is a French werewolf kung fu period drama where there's a giant monster, supposedly based on a true story, who's tearing up country women in pre-revolutionary France, and they conscript a Canadian naturalist and his ass-kicking Native American sidekick to come to rural France and kill this giant monster that may or may not be a werewolf. It's got a lot of political conspiracy stuff. It's kind of like watching an American, like summer blockbuster movie, but made by the French with French sensibilities. So you have like heroes who, the noble hero is pining for the virgin princess girl, and spends all this time with her. And he's like, okay, this is nice, but I'm not getting any. In an American movie, it becomes this whole thing where he's like, okay, well, wait,
let's go make out in the barn.
Yeah, in this movie, it becomes like, well, okay, we've done that. All right, everybody's still good. All right, let's go to the brothel. And they have Monica Bellucci. This movie has the best dissolve shot in the history of cinema. I won't say what it is, but if you watch the movie, you'll know when you see it. And for foodies, the guy who plays the Native American werewolf hunter is Mark Dacascos, who's actually an American action star who now plays, I kid you not, the chairman on Iron Chef America. So if you want to see that guy killing werewolves with an axe and a loincloth, see this movie.
He has a career of some of the worst action movies ever. But they're like almost rip-offs of like, oh, the Omega Man, let's make one that's just like that and call it something different.
He did do that.
I like his movies.
He's in a couple decent ones. He was in, he's the bad guy in Cradle to the Grave with Jet Li, which he actually got that role because Jet Li put a poll on his web of who people wanted to see him fight, and Mark Dacascos won because he's well respected in martial arts circles, and he did the live-action version of an anime called Crying Freeman from the director of Brotherhood of the Wolf, which is actually excellent. Some people call it the best live-action anime. And he did a movie called Drive, which was sort of like a good version of Rush Hour, which was actually a lot of fun.
Cool. Me? Is it me?
All you, John.
Rock on. Here comes a plethora of mispronounced Korean names.
Okay.
So this movie's called The Man from Nowhere, directed by Jang Bum Lee. It's a story. It takes place in a rooming house. There's a guy who runs kind of a pawn shop in this rooming house. You can leave your camera for a day or two and he'll give you a few dollars for it.
Right.
He's kind of befriended the little girl in the building because her mom's a junkie and, anyway, the mom gets caught up in a bad drug deal and they kidnap the little girl and this guy goes back to get her. Pretty basic plot. But it just keeps building. Okay, so they're drug dealers and he's going to go after them, but they killed the mom and hide her in the trunk. These are spoilers, but whatever, it's still fun to watch.
Yeah.
They kill the mom and hide her in the trunk. He gets in an accident. Well, don't you know that she's got a big autopsy scar in the middle of her and they've harvested all her organs. So now they're drug dealers and organ harvesters. And so they just keep building these ridiculous plot lines. The thing that is it's just a great action movie, and it stars this guy, Bin Wan.
Yes.
You know him?
I know the name, and I've seen some Korean movies.
He kicks ass.
Yeah, he is an interesting actor. Korea right now is where Hong Kong was like 10, 15 years ago as just the most consistently creative major cinema on the planet right now. India's catching up, but right now Korea is where it's at.
There's a knife fight in this that goes on for, 10, 15 minutes. And, how exciting can a knife fight be, right? It's so cool.
Are you in it or are you not?
Yeah, Yeah, this is like just the little touches, little flares he does to it. There's lots of fighting, and it's got a good story. It's fun to watch, especially like you said. It's just exciting because these are like the movies, like the first time you saw a Bruce Lee movie or any Hong Kong kung fu movie that wasn't about the sound effects and the opera poses,
the Shaolin Temple.
Yeah, it wasn't that kind of stuff. This is gritty, good stuff. So I would highly recommend it. That's mine.
Cool. All right.
I think that's it for this week.
Okay.
Bob, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much.
And once again, where can people find you? Here comes.
People can find my my movie review show at it's called Escape to the Movies. It's at escapistmagazine.com. Also have a show on there on Tuesdays called The Big Picture. It's a pop culture analysis show. And the video game series, The Game Overthinker, which you can watch on screwattack.com. Also check out my blogs, Moviebob at blogspot.com and GameOverthinker at blogspot.com.
And in his spare time?
Also a film critic.
And
so that's
no, I got nothing.
So that's it for this week. You can find all of our episodes online at post-movie.net, and we're on iTunes. And if you could leave us a review, that would be like really awesome. And we're also on Facebook. We link many things from Facebook, and you can always comment or like. Facebook likes are always nice, I guess. Mm-hmm. And if you have any questions, send us an email. We'll get back to you. We're at contact@post-movie.net. So until next week, I'm Steve Head.
I'm John Black.
So long, everyone.